Thank you for watching. Subscribe on Deceived Husbands for more stories.
I've always hated the rain. It ruined baseball games and picnics when I was a kid, and as I got older, it turned driving into a headache. But worst of all, it's the reason I found out about my ex-wife's affair. The thunderstorm caught me off guard about half an hour into my Saturday golf game. I'm not great at golf, but I enjoy the exercise. My wife, Maria, used to come along, but about a year ago, she decided Saturday mornings were better spent elsewhere. When the rain forced me to turn back and head home, I discovered exactly what, or rather who, had replaced our shared mornings. Walking through the front door, I found Maria and her boss, Sam, in a half-dressed, very intimate embrace on the couch. It's probably a good thing I'd left my golf bag in the trunk, or I might have used a club to teach them both a lesson they wouldn't forget. I was tempted. The two of them fumbled awkwardly, trying to get their shirts back on as I stood frozen in the doorway, wide-eyed and speechless. When she was finally dressed, Maria planted her hands on her hips and stared at me. "Don't you have anything to say?" she asked. I shook my head and stepped aside from the open door, which I hadn't even thought to close. "Just 2 words, get out," I said, my voice low and steady. Sam didn't waste a second, scrambling for the door like his life depended on it. Maria, however, stood rooted to the spot, her gaze dropping to the floor. "You two," I added. "Will pack your stuff and leave it in the garage. We'll call your cell later this week and let you know when you can pick it up." Mariah's head snapped up, her eyes brimming with tears. "Can't we talk?" she pleaded. "I'm sorry, honey. I don't have anywhere to go," I said. "You can go wherever he goes," I added, the words slicing through the air because the second I have time to dial, I'm calling his wife. I kept my composure during the 10 minutes I allowed her to pack some personal belongings, but I was tearful when I called Sam's house. "Mrs. Ellis?" I said when she answered. "This is John Walker. I know this is inconvenient for you, but I think we need to have lunch this afternoon. There are some things we need to discuss." I heard her sigh deeply. "My husband and your wife," she said sadly. "I can't believe it. I found your number on his cell phone records for the last 6 months. He said it was work-related calls, but there were far too many for me to really accept that. But I wanted to believe him. He'll call you back." He just pulled in the driveway. It was almost an hour before Lisa Thomas called me back. I spent the time alternating between rage and despair. Maria had been the only person I'd ever loved as much as I loved myself. I guess that wasn't enough. When Lisa called, she sounded as miserable as I felt. "Screw them," I said. "They deserve each other." That earned a slight laugh. "I'd like to get together for lunch tomorrow, so we can share records," Lisa told me. "I plan to meet with a lawyer first thing Monday morning and have the papers delivered to his office that afternoon." I added with a laugh, "I've already opened my templates to file the paperwork. They'll bring some copies of things I give to my clients. I hate divorces. I think I'm going to hate this one even more." When Lisa Thomas walked into the restaurant for lunch, my eyes bulged out of their sockets. She was 8 months pregnant, if she was a day. I felt my anger rise with each step she took closer toward me. When she sat down, it bubbled over. "It's a little-known fact that the offending party in a divorce can be made to pay for the non-offending party's legal fees," I said. "I brought a list of lawyers who would help you out for little or nothing, but I think we'll get another list of the nastiest ball-busting attorneys I know of." That filthy son of a Lisa smiled serenely. "I'm sorry," I said. "My soon-to-be ex-wife is just as much of a son of daughter of a Lisa," corrected me with a smile. "My emotions are all over the place. Anyway, now this half of the time, I want to castrate him, and the other half, I'm so sad I can hardly move." I nodded. "I should have beaten them both to death with a golf club," I said, and I was surprised that I meant it. I shook my head quickly to clear the image from my mind. "Wow," Lisa replied. "That would have solved my problem, but you would have had a whole new set. At least as it is, we can help each other," I said. I pulled a sheath of papers from my briefcase. "I opened Mariah's email account last night," I said. "Here is chapter and verse of their affair. I haven't read any of these yet because I still have to see her one more time to let her pick up some stuff from the house, and am afraid of what I might do." "I'd like to be there," Lisa said quickly. "You come to my house while Sam is there. He'll come to yours while Maria is there." I smiled. "It sounds like a perfectly diabolical plan," I said. "Now, I want to give you some free legal advice. Obviously, I can't represent you something about ethics and conflicts of interest I don't know. I slept through that week of law school. Before you go to the lawyers on Monday, go to the bank, leave $300 in your checking account, and remove the rest." Lisa smiled. "Already done," she said. I transferred every last penny from there last night. I sat back. First, I replied, how did you manage that? Internet banking, she said. I nodded and wondered if I had that set up. Maria had taken care of the household expenses. Let's have a quick lunch, and I'll check to see if you have the program on your computer, Lisa offered. I smiled. I could do basic word entry, but I was as computer illiterate as a person in this day and age could be. Now you need to put some money back in the account, I said, and I watched Lisa's eyes flash in anger. Hear me out before you shoot the messenger, I said. Leaving him a little bit to get by on will score big points with the judge. After all, you are the aggrieved party, and you are being magnanimous. If you take everything, they'll see vindictive. Good, she spat. I want them to see my vindictive side, because that's exactly how I feel. I left him with his life, and anything else he gets is more than he deserves. I liked this woman's spirit. I'm just telling you how a court will view it, I said. You're free to do whatever you want. Lisa sighed again. I am absolutely not free to do whatever I want, she said. I'm due to have a baby any day now, and my husband was diddling your wife instead of painting the nursery. The paint fumes make me nauseated. I'll make you a deal, I said. You check out my computer this afternoon. I'll paint your nursery tomorrow afternoon. I'm taking a week off from work. Lisa smiled and patted her tummy. Deal, she said. But if we don't eat soon, you're going to have one unhappy, hungry woman on your hands, instead of just one unhappy woman. After a lunch in which Lisa ate most of the appetizer, all of her entree, and a portion of mine, we headed back to my house, where Lisa went digging onto the computer. She quickly found the money management program and made an electronic transfer from checking to savings. What the hell? I heard from the room set aside for an office as I got us both a bottle of water. I worried that the baby was on the way and hustled back in. Just as with the day before, I stopped with my mouth open in the doorway. There, in living color on the computer screen, was Lisa's husband having sex with my wife. They made videos, she hissed. Dozens of them. Lisa was scrambling to find a CD to burn the incriminating evidence when my cell phone rang. John? My wife said when I answered. I handed the phone to Lisa. Have anything you'd like to say to Maria? I asked. Indeed, she did. Lisa started to go into a tirade about the videos, but she saw me shaking my head violently. I mouthed the word surprise, and she got an evil glint in her eye. You're a pretty lowlife, she said instead. I'm a week away from having a baby, and you're screwing my husband. Well, you can have him when John and I are done packing all of Sam's things at my house. We're heading to his to pack yours. We'll set it out at the curb for you two degenerates to come and pick up. One day this week? I smiled. I don't know, Lisa said to an unheard question. I talked to him yesterday and told him my situation. He came over today to do all the things for me and the baby that the scumbag you're screwing was supposed to do. You should have just come to me. I would have traded you even up. You can have the piece of trash you got, and he'll take the gym you didn't want. Lisa smiled, and I shook my head, embarrassed. He'll ask, Lisa said into the receiver as she got another evil grin on her face. Maria says there are some work things she needs off the computer. She told me while barely containing her laughter. She wants to know if she can stop by and get them. I bit the inside of my cheek to keep from laughing out loud. I changed the alarm code before she even sat down in the car seat. I lied. Tell her she can have the whole damn machine. They'll set it outside when I leave for work on Wednesday morning. Tell her she can pick it up anytime after 7 a.m. Vanessa nodded her approval. That would give us a while to hunt through the rest of the files. Oh, and ask her to tell Sam hello for me, I said. I talked to a few of my old clients last night, and they're planning to say hi to him for me, too. It was Vanessa's turn to bite the inside of her lip. Oh, really? She said, looking amused. I figured the two of you couldn't wait to set up housekeeping. I mean, it's not like it's a secret anymore. Sam's not with her, she said as she rolled her eyes. She said it was a one-time thing, and she hasn't seen him since he ran out yesterday. I chuckled. It was really gallant of him to stay and protect her, I said. He left like his butt was on fire. Of course, after what he did to you, that can't be much of a surprise. Vanessa's eyes lost their fire and became suddenly sad. Actually, it was a surprise, she said, more to herself than to me. Well, I hope you and Sam decide to continue your one-time thing, I said. From what I can see, you two deserve each other. Vanessa hung up the phone and jumped back on the computer to try to quell her emotions. I took a moment to follow through on changing the alarm code in case Maria decided to make a preemptive strike. Vanessa and I drove to the office supply store, where we bought a new computer system for each of us and an external hard drive to dump all the files on. Vanessa was a computer whiz and managed to download my whole hard drive. By the time she was finished, it was almost 1 p.m. It was raining again when I drove her home. "We need to be careful," she said as I pulled into her driveway. "I agree wholeheartedly," I said, but I couldn't understand the importance of it just right now. "They've proven rather adept at lying," she continued. "I wouldn't put it past them to have someone watching our houses now that they know we've been together." Suddenly, it all became clear. "They're not the bad guys," I said. "We are. I've had clients who have wanted to go that route, but I always declined. I try not to be too sleazy." Vanessa laughed. "A non-sleazy lawyer?" she said. "I never thought I'd see the day." "I'm still coming over tomorrow to paint the baby's room," I said. "And if you want, I'll be right there with you when the time comes." Vanessa's eyes filled with tears. "Thanks," she said quietly. "Let's just get through tomorrow." I helped her out of the car and walked her to the door. "Should I come in to check to make sure things are all right?" I asked. "Would you?" she said. I didn't want to seem like everything was all right in her house. She had already changed the alarm code, and I patted her shoulder as I was leaving. "I'm hitting the bank and the courthouse tomorrow," I said. "Do you want to file the paperwork together?" Vanessa shook her head. "I've still got to find a lawyer," she said. "It might be a few days before I get to the filing, but I will go to the bank to make sure everything is above board and let them know that Sam has no access to our accounts." "I can't represent you," I said, "but I can advise you. I can put together a packet for you to file first thing in the morning if you want. But you don't have to file at all. You know that, right? I mean, you have a child with him." Vanessa looked thoughtful. "Do you read minds?" she said. I tilted my head to make sure I heard her correctly. No," I said. "I mean, I barely have a mind of my own." The smile returned to her face. "I want to file as soon as possible," she said. "But I know how difficult it can be to get an appointment with a decent attorney. If you can put together some paperwork, I'd appreciate it. They'll meet you at the courthouse at lunch." I went to the car to get my briefcase and handed a copy of the papers I planned to file in the morning. "If you get the chance, look through these," I said. "It has a legal separation date, and I pretty much asked for 2/3 of everything as the primary wage earner of a short-term marriage. I don't know your financial situation, but I can't imagine Sam makes enough as a high school guidance counselor to afford a house this nice." Vanessa snorted. "No, I'm the primary wage earner," she said. "I do computer programming and networking. I make about 10 times what he does." A smile came to my face. "Maybe that's why he was slumming with my wife," I said. "He wanted to get back in touch with the proletariat." "Did you see those videos?" she said. "It looked like they got in touch with a lot of things. What do you say we drop a copy off at the school board meeting after we take them to the cleaners?" We didn't stop at the school board Monday morning, but I did find an old adversary and approached him. "What the hell do you want, Detective Lieutenant Eric Johnson?" he hissed when I entered his office. "My alimony is up to date, and I haven't talked to her in a year," I said calmly. "I know. I'm here on another matter, a personal matter." Lieutenant Johnson didn't move. "I would like to leave a potential piece of evidence with you," I said, eyes cast downward. "I hope you'll give me a receipt confirming acceptance and sign this chain of custody form." Johnson pushed forward in his chair. "Criminal or civil case?" he said. I knew he didn't like me deservedly saw, but I also knew he was a good cop. "Civil," I said. "If it were criminal, I would have given it to anyone in uniform. I just need you to hold on to this until I come for it. I wouldn't have come to you if it weren't important." Johnson sighed but nodded. I handed over the CD, and he sealed it in an evidence bag. He pulled a patrolman inside who witnessed the chain of custody signature, and I was off. "How long will I need to hold this?" Johnson asked as I departed. I shrugged. "I hope I can call you in a day or two, and you can toss it," I said. "I just need it out of my hands and into someone who can be trusted." I left before I could hear Johnson's retort. I had represented his ex-wife in their divorce, and I had mistakenly taken her word as gospel. It was only later that I found out she had misled me and the court, but by then, Johnson's reputation was almost in the trash. I had done my best to make reparations when I found the truth, but it wasn't enough, and I knew it. But I also recognized that his word was beyond reproach in the courtroom. It was among many mistakes I had made a couple of years before. I shook my head as I left to meet Vanessa at the bank. Vanessa and I were the first two through the doors of Riverstone Bank. It took us less than 20 minutes to open new accounts and leave some cash for our wayward spouses. We smiled at each other when the manager told us someone was trying to access the accounts from another branch, and that the people in question were late, that the majority of the money was gone. We should have moved quicker, Vanessa said with a smirk. He was quick enough to get the Walker house Saturday morning, I said. An hour after our stop at the bank, we filed our complaint and divorce at the county clerk's office. We paid our $230 filing fee and secured the services of a constable to serve the papers Tuesday. Since it was the last day of school, it seemed like fitting retribution. After that, we celebrated with a late lunch and a trip to Home Depot to pick out the color for the baby's room. Vanessa tired easily, and we stopped off for her to rest, so the trip took a little longer than planned. Maria and Sam left several messages on our cell phones, but we deleted them unheard. I had already heard most of what Maria would say during my time as an attorney. Vanessa didn't care a bit about what Sam had to say. I spent the rest of Monday preparing the room that would house Vanessa's coming addition for painting, and all of Tuesday putting on the first coat of paint. Vanessa selected a nice sand color for the walls with a pale green for the trim. I joked that the green would match the baby poop almost exactly, but she didn't find me amusing. I had forgotten about my promise to Maria about returning the computer on Wednesday morning. Vanessa had finished with it on Monday and had instructed me on how to disassemble the thing and pack it away. I opened the door at 6:30 a.m. to put the computer on the porch and came face to face with my wife. "Isn't it after 7 a.m.?" I said. Maria looked up at me sadly. "You had them serve divorce papers at school?" She said. "That was awful." I shrugged. "I had no address for you," I said. Vanessa had no address for Sam. It was the best we could do. "I went to an attorney after I got served," she told me. "I just want you to know that you're wrong. We never committed adultery. It was the first time we met. What you saw was as far as we got, some kissing, some touching, nothing more. I was told it doesn't meet the legal definition of adultery." I smiled. "So you're saying that you never had sex with Sam?" I asked. Maria nodded. "Never," she said vehemently. I shrugged. "They'll give you a no-fault divorce in 90 days, I said. She mentally shook her head. In our state, a no-fault divorce meant a 5,050 split of all assets considered marital property. An at-fault divorce, such as one involving adultery or abuse, would result in a judge determining the balance, but would leave the non-offending party with no less than 67. "They'll take it under consideration," I said. "I want to come home," she said. I sighed. "I've been thinking about that," I said. "I think it's a good idea." Maria looked up at me expectantly. "I don't want the house," I said. "It has nothing but terrible memories for me." "You can have it. They'll find an apartment this week and take what I want. If there's anything missing that you want, let me know and I'll consider if you should have it. You can take possession of the marital home at noon Sunday." "I can already tell you that something I want will be missing," she said. "How in the hell can you know that?" I asked heatedly. "I might just take my clothes and leave." "That's not what I meant," she said quickly. "I want to come home with you, and you'll be gone." "You have no home with me anymore," I said. "You can have the house, but there's no way you'll be in it if you don't want it. You can put it on the market. I've paid 3 months of the mortgage. It's up to date until September. They'll pay you $1,000 per month in alimony for 24 months. That's 1 month's alimony for each month we were married. It's the best offer you're going to get." Maria shook her head. "If you want to try to work things out, then we'll go to court, and it'll take half of your net worth," she said smugly. "You might be an attorney, but I know my rights." I was met by Lisa at her door. She had a look on her face that bespoke her emotions. "You just missed my scumbag of a soon-to-be ex-husband," she hissed. "He wants half. I almost told him about the videos. Lying piece of trash. I should have taken his balls." "They'll do it myself," I said sweetly. "Remember what we have. We can hoist them by their own petard. We'll let them state their case under oath, then rip them apart. I still have hope that they'll see reason and accept our offer," I said. Vanessa and I had spent hours Tuesday evening working over the deals we were willing to offer. Vanessa wanted to leave them with nothing. I knew it wasn't going to work that way. The courts very rarely left the defendant with nothing. It led to too many courthouse shootings. I always thought it was a bit extreme, but I also suspected that neither of our cheating partners would accept our generosity. Instead, they would want more. I had no doubt that Mariah's suddenly precarious financial situation was the reason she wanted me to take her back. "I need to look for an apartment this afternoon," I said. "As soon as I'm done with the baby's room, can you go through the classifieds for me? It'll keep you away from the smell." Vanessa smiled and pulled out a paper. "It was what I was doing when that jerk showed up," she said. "Can you believe he wanted to come home? He asked if we could try counseling. I asked if he would consider castration." I chuckled. "Anyway, there is a nice apartment complex about 5 minutes from here," she said. The paper says they have openings. It has a pool. You should take a look. I shrugged. Anywhere would be fine with me, I said. Once I head back to the office, my hours will be ugly again. Vanessa frowned. I was the same way, she said. But with what do you call her? Small fry, coming soon. I'm going to spend less time there. I considered what she said. I have no doubt my hours are what led Maria and Sam together, I said, and Vanessa nodded. But she sure liked the money. Vanessa nodded more vehemently. You should think about spending less time at work, too, she said. Money isn't everything. It was after midnight on a Friday night when Vanessa called to tell me she was in labor. I had moved to the apartment complex a few blocks from her house, so I was at her door in less than 10 minutes. We had rehearsed the procedure a dozen times, but it was hectic as hell on the actual night. The 13 days since I first met Vanessa had been a whirlwind. I had painted the room and put together the furniture. I had bought a video recorder and a digital camera to record images. I had moved to a new apartment and returned to work. I had juggled calls from Maria and threats from her attorney, and called Vanessa when she received the same from Sam and his attorney. I had expected most of my activities, but I wasn't prepared for the next portion of my life. Vanessa grasped my hand tightly and pulled me with her into the delivery room. I was not super pleased about the situation, but I hardly could tell her no. I figured I would stay with her until the real event kicked off, then get away as fast as possible. The rain outside should have told me that wouldn't be the case. I kept my back to the action as I maintained a tight hold on Vanessa's hand and whispered soothing words to her. I graciously declined when the doctor offered me the opportunity to cut the umbilical cord, but I gladly accepted the bloody bundle that was Vanessa's daughter after the doctor had let Vanessa hold the little girl for a minute. Charlotte Carter was a beautiful baby. I had taken Vanessa's advice and cut back on my hours, much to the chagrin of the partners of the law firm I worked for. My leisure time wasn't spent exactly leisurely, but it was certainly enjoyable. I became Charlotte's part-time babysitter while her mother worked in her home office. Vanessa would take a break every couple of hours to breastfeed the little girl, times when I made a hasty retreat, but she seemed content to leave the precious little girl in my care during the evenings. I had wanted children since my marriage, but Maria had steadfastly refused. She wanted to wait 3 or 4 more years, much to my disappointment. Vanessa told me Sam was reticent about having children as well, and he had expressed disappointment, then disinterest, when she told him she was pregnant. For my part, I would be happy as hell to be considered Uncle John by little Charlotte. Maria and Sam hadn't given up. Their attorney had filed a counterclaim alleging infidelity on the part of Vanessa and me. It was ludicrous, but the court had accepted the filing as required by law. Vanessa and I had a laugh over that one, but we still were obligated to defend against the claim. Sam had made a few efforts to see his daughter. Vanessa had primary custody, and Sam hadn't bothered to go to court to secure visitation for the first couple of months. He would call about once a week to secure Vanessa's permission to visit. Vanessa had always asked me to be there whenever Sam came to visit. Maria would call my cell phone a couple of times per week, usually to try to get more money out of me, or to ask me questions about turning on the furnace or putting in the storm windows. The first depositions were a joke. Mariah's attorney looked as if he were 15 years old and acted as if he were 12. He expected to be able to dictate the pace of the proceedings, and that simply wasn't going to happen. I had engaged a full-fledged ball-busting shark as my attorney. She was a Taquino prisoner's type who ate little boys like Mariah's attorney for lunch. She had never heard of Mariah's attorney, and neither had I. I simply don't see how you can allege adultery, he said before I even sat down. She was screwing another guy, I said harshly. The boy actually blushed. That is incorrect, the boy said. Allow me to inform you of the legal definition of adultery. I started to speak, but my attorney touched my arm. He'll handle this one, she said. This man handles 40 or 50 divorces a month. Just the thought of his client list gets my silkies a little moist. He understands the legal definition of adultery far better than you do. I can assure you, and I can further assure you that he recognizes adultery when he sees it. At my attorney's mention of silkies, the boy's blush deepened. Remind me to bring my client list to our next lunch meeting, I said, wiggling my eyebrows, and my attorney punched me on the arm playfully. I saw an opportunity to speak and took it. Maria, I've been generous, I said. There is no way you'll get a no-fault divorce out of this. You know it, and I know it. My first offer was the house and $24,000 in alimony. I've documented every lie you've told me since our separation, and I've knocked 10 per month off for each one of them. My final offer, which is good until Monday afternoon, is $480 per month and the house. If this goes to trial, you'll lose the house too. Maria was shaking her head so hard. I thought her necklace might break. I have not lied to you, she said. Not once. I never had sex with Sam before our separation. For 70 per month, I said as I pulled out my notebook and made a tick beside the appropriate lie. Keep going and you'll owe me money. Screw you, Maria hissed. We'll go to court before we go. I want to get a couple of things on the record, my attorney said. This is a formal deposition, and it will be recorded. You are under oath. For the record, Miss Wallace, did you have a sexual relationship with Sam Carter prior to June 3rd? Absolutely not. Maria practically screamed. Then she sat back with a smug look on her face. That's really all I have to ask, my attorney said, and I started to rise. I have some questions for your client, Mariah's boy wonder said. Did you have a sexual relationship with Vanessa Carter prior to June 3rd? He asked with a grin. I knew it was coming, and I was prepared. I have not had a sexual relationship with Vanessa Carter prior to nor after June 3rd. In fact, I don't think I ever laid eyes on her until June 4th. At the time, she was 9 months pregnant. She has since given birth, but our relationship is not sexual. Mariah's attorney rolled his eyes. We have photos of you leaving her house, he said. We have photos of her leaving your apartment. We know about you too. You certainly seem chummy with the daughter. Are you sure she isn't yours? I was out of my seat before my attorney could stop me. You sniveling little twit. I roared. I'll cut your balls off and stuff them down your throat if I see one camera pointed at me or those two. Mark my words, you little prick. You don't want me as your enemy. Maria, ask your sex buddy what Vanessa does for a living before you decide to reject the deal, I said. You have until 5 p.m. Monday to come to your senses. Monday afternoon came and went without a word from Maria, but I did hear from Judge Patricia McDonald about my outburst. It seemed Mariah's attorney had filed a formal grievance against me with the presiding judge. I was to be in her chambers at 2 p.m. Tuesday with my attorney. Tuesday morning brought Mariah's counteroffer. She wanted me to give her the house and a $50,000 lump sum alimony payment. Neither the summons nor Mariah's demands worried me much, but Vanessa was pissed when she got a similar packet from Sam. It seemed that she and I weren't the only two comparing notes. I sat in Judge McDonald's chambers and listened to the snot-nosed kid give chapter and verse on my alleged transgressions. He is an officer of the court, he said. He threatened another officer of the court. That's actionable. My attorney smiled sweetly. He was there not as an officer of the court, she replied. He was there as a plaintiff. And if Mr. Hart maintains his sanctimonious attitude, Mr. Walker will not be the last client who speaks harshly to him. If Mr. Hart doesn't grow up, Your Honor, you're going to have to set aside another judge just for hearing his whining. Judge McDonald shook her head gravely. Just what did you say, Mr. Walker? She asked. I smiled at the woman. I called him a sniveling twit and told him he didn't want me as an enemy, I replied. It was almost word for word what Judge McDonald had said to me 5 years before. The judge burst out laughing. Mr. Hart, she began. Being called a twit is not actionable. In fact, if your actions here were anything near your attitude here, I would say Mr. Walker was correct in his assessment. As for the second part, I would say he definitely was correct. He is not a person you want as your enemy. The young attorney got red-faced and sputtered out a few syllables before regaining composure. Well, he said hesitantly, my client was refused by several attorneys in this matter before she came to me. I can understand why, I said. I see the Good Old Boy Network has expanded to include women. Judge McDonald's eyes became slits, but I spoke before she could unleash her venom on the man. I'm going to give you a little free advice, I said quickly. If you want to say the things you did when you're talking to your buddies or to your clients, no one will care. But if you try that in a judge's chambers again, you better have a toothbrush in your pocket. If you get my meaning. He looked dumbfounded, so I assumed he didn't. I started to speak again, but Judge McDonald cut me off. Contempt of court, she said brusquely. That means I put you in jail until I decide to let you out. He's right again. You open your mouth to me again. It better be prefaced with your honor or ma'am, and your tone of voice better be respectful, even if you don't mean it. It's time you grow up. If you want to play in the big leagues, we don't take kindly to crybabies up here. Now, as for your request, it's out of order. If you put in a formal motion, they'll deny it. The young man sputtered again. The simple fact is that Mr. Walker has already asked us to recuse ourselves from the case, she continued. He was looking out for your client while you were still holding your crying towel. Now, get out. Maria had sat quietly throughout, but I noticed her face getting paler as the judge spoke. When we left, she refused to meet my gaze. As for your offer, I said to the top of her head. Fat chance. The fall brought a host of activities. I spent 3 or 4 evenings a week with Vanessa and Charlotte. I learned how to fix a bottle and even change a diaper. Vanessa started to take a couple of hours per week away from the little one, so I got a crash course in unsupervised childcare. It was good for Vanessa's peace of mind, and I had a great time with Charlotte. I didn't even mind when she was fussy we'd take a short stroll, and I'd sing her a couple of silly songs, and she would be out like a light. I couldn't decide what my relationship with Vanessa was. I was starting to realize what I would like it to be, but she treated me more like a brother than as a significant other. I guess for the most part, I treated her sisterly as well. Still, we would watch a movie or sit and talk after Charlotte was asleep, and we ate together almost every evening. Whatever relationship we had, we both seemed comfortable around the other, so we kept things low-key. Of course, the thought of some sleazy photographer outside of our living areas made that easier still. It was early January before the cases of Walker versus Walker and Carter versus Carter made their way to the dock at family court. Maria had made a vain attempt at contacting me to try to exchange figures again, but I refused. The whole private detective thing had really pissed me off. Sam had stopped coming to visit Charlotte at all. I think he was worried that Vanessa was going to hit him up for child support. She was keeping that gun in the holster for right now because a judge from another county was being brought in. Both cases were scheduled to be heard on the same day, mine in the morning, and Vanessa's in the afternoon. We really figured the afternoon session would prove superfluous. I thought it a good sign that there wasn't a cloud in the sky when we entered the courthouse. The court listened to Mariah's counterclaim and refused it without comment. She had pictures of me leaving the house and Vanessa leaving my house, but nothing of a sexual nature. Our claim was straightforward. Maria had said during her deposition that she hadn't had a sexual relationship with Sam. We held our ace in the hole, the videos and emails, hoping we wouldn't need them, but of course we did. I testified vaguely about evidence that I had found that implicated the pair in adultery long before June 3rd, but I was never asked about it on cross-examination. Maria, on direct questioning, denied the affair and did so again under cross. We have a rebuttal witness, my attorney said. The plaintiff calls Detective Lieutenant Eric Johnson because he was offering rebuttal testimony. We didn't have to list Detective Johnson as a potential witness, thus, the defense had no opportunity to explore what he might have to say. After he was sworn in and gave his full name and occupation, Detective Johnson glared at me. "What is your relationship to my client?" my attorney asked. "None," he said harshly. "In fact, I dislike him immensely." My attorney nodded. "Do you have a professional relationship with him?" she asked. "Absolutely not," Detective Johnson replied. "He represented my ex-wife in our divorce. He's a scumbag divorce attorney. I work criminal cases. When is the last time you saw Mr. Walker?" Mariah's attorney yelled as he rose to his feet. "Your Honor, this is all well and good, but would you please instruct counsel to get to the point?" the boy demanded. The judge looked at my attorney. "Your Honor, Detective Johnson has vital information in his possession with direct bearing on Miss Maria Walker's claims," my attorney said. "I am establishing that Detective Johnson has no personal interest in the outcome and putting together a timeline for the court." "Oh, I have an interest," Detective Johnson said. "I hope she takes him for all he's worth, just like he did to me." The judge reprimanded Detective Johnson and allowed my attorney to continue. "When is the last time you saw Mr. Walker?" she asked. The detective consulted a notebook. "June 5th of last year," he said. "At that time, did he leave anything in your possession?" "Yes," Detective Johnson said. "Could you tell the court what he left with you?" "A compact disc." "Do you know what is on the disc?" "I have no idea," he said. "He came to my office and asked me to hold on to it. He had me sign a chain of custody form in front of a witness, and it was sealed in an evidence bag." "Did the disc leave your possession since that time?" "It left my physical possession," he said, "but it was locked in my office safe at all times." "Does anyone else have the combination to that safe?" my attorney asked. Detective Johnson looked thoughtful. "I don't think so," he said. "My former secretary did, but she retired before Mr. Walker came to visit. I changed the combination after she left, and I haven't had a permanent secretary since." My attorney nodded. "Do you have the disc in your possession right now?" Detective Johnson nodded, and then affirmed his answer verbally as he produced a sealed evidence bag from his jacket. He also produced the chain of custody form, which was stapled to the outside. "We offer plaintiffs' exhibits 1 and 2 in rebuttal to Mrs. Walker's prior testimony." This raised another objection, but it was overruled. I saw Mariah's face had turned the color of chalk, and I heard her whisper hurriedly to her attorney, who whose face was as red as blood. "Your Honor, the contents of this disc are not suitable for public viewing," Mariah's attorney stated. "The plaintiff asks you to view the contents in camera, and the plaintiff has no further questions for Detective Johnson." Mariah's attorney tried for 15 minutes to get Detective Johnson to change his story, but it didn't work. I knew the detective had spent hundreds of hours on the witness stand, and he knew how to deal with arrogant attorneys, myself obviously excluded, given the size of his alimony payments. The judge ordered a recess while she viewed the disc and told us she would issue her ruling at 11:30 a.m. I saw Vanessa in the hallway, pacing back and forth with Charlotte in her sling. I smiled and gave her a thumbs up as I headed toward them. "Well, I think this afternoon will be anticlimactic," I said. "I'm sorry you won't get the pleasure of seeing Sam's face when he finds out." She smiled and handed the baby over to me. "You'll get the pleasure of seeing him come to grovel," she said. "That's just as much fun." I saw Maria and her attorney approaching with Sam and his lawyer in tow, so I turned to face them. "They'll take the original offer," Maria said quickly. "I still think you're bluffing, but Sam says Vanessa might have been able to create something on the computer." "Think again," Vanessa hissed. "Or rather, don't bother. Why do you think we got a police officer involved? You're caught, and you know it. I know it. Ryan knows it, and now the judge knows it. You're in trouble from every angle with evidence stacked against you in more ways than one. We've talked, and hey, race our latest offer get lost." I patted Vanessa on the arm, and she turned to me quickly. "Don't you start," she said. "They wanted to play hardball. They lied and cheated and tried to get a hell of a lot more than they deserve. Things are tough in the big leagues, little girl, and you and the douchebag over there bit off a hell of a lot more than you can chew when you decided to screw around on us. You'll get half of whatever the judge decides this gets minus the house. If you don't like it, we'll head in there and play this game again this afternoon. I'm sure running out on a 9-month pregnant wife to screw around with some bimbo will really play well in the court transcripts. You should thank Ryan for stepping in to help me with Charlotte. Otherwise, I'd be taking $500 in child support from your meager salary." Sam stood with his mouth agape. I couldn't blame him. I was a little shell-shocked myself by her outburst. Vanessa was fighting mad, and I, for one, wasn't about to tangle with her. Sam's attorney seemed to think discretion was the better part of valor. "Half of what she gets, minus the house," he said. "We'll take it." "Oh, and Samboy here pays my legal fees," Vanessa said. "Since it's an at-fault divorce, that's his obligation." Sam's attorney nodded, and Vanessa turned to me. "May I assume you're charging me your standard fee for the advice you've given me?" she asked with a malicious grin. "I've heard rumors that you charge $600 per hour. My attorney tells me that your time is as billable as hers is." I couldn't suppress a chuckle, and I could see Sam doing math in his head. Vanessa just grasped my arm and led me away from the group. "I'm sorry," she said. "I shouldn't have made that decision for you. I know you don't want to leave them with nothing, but I think it's what they deserve. Still, it wasn't my place." I patted her arm. "It's okay," I said. "You're right, and I'm wrong. Take a note," she said. "It might be the last time you hear that from me." She smiled. "Oh, I doubt that," she said. I smiled and nodded. I was ready to continue the conversation when my attorney and Mariah came over. "She is willing to settle for $500 per month in alimony for 2 years, my attorney said with a smile. "She keeps the house, and she gets 1/4 of the joint checking account." I still had little Charlotte strapped to my chest, but I tried my best to shrug. "You two just don't get it," I said. "An at-fault divorce means she's entitled to no more than 1/3 of everything. By all rights, I should force her to sell the house and give me 2/3 of the proceeds. She'll be lucky if she doesn't wind up having to sell the house to pay my attorney's fees. Forget alimony. We'll wait for the judge." Mariah's attorney turned away and shook his head gravely. Maria looked as if she was going to cry. The judge's ruling was harsher than I expected. "Miss Wallace," the judge said, "I watched the contents of that CD with nothing less than disgust," she said. "It is apparent to me that you have intentionally misled this court to try to seek increased financial gain. I don't take kindly to that. Mr. Walker made a very generous offer. In fact, he has made several generous offers. You refused each one because you wanted to reach for the brass ring. Well, you missed. The marital assets will be divided thusly: 94 to Mr. Walker, 6 to Miss Wallace. Mr. Walker was the primary wage earner during the marriage, so alimony is called for. I order Mr. Walker to pay you $5 per month for the next 2 months. It is my understanding that Mr. Walker has paid you $1,000 per month for the last 7 months. I order that returned, less 10. Each of you is forbidden from removing the other as primary beneficiary to any insurance policy presently in existence, the judge continued. Miss Wallace, you may keep the marital home for 5 years. During that time, you are responsible for all costs associated with the dwelling. The house is to be sold 5 years hence, and the proceeds split 75 to Mr. Walker and 25 to Miss Wallace. The house will be appraised within 30 days at Miss Wallace's expense. The appraisal value will be the starting point for the resale value. Any sale of the property for less than the current appraisal value will come from Miss Wallace's share. Miss Wallace, you are further ordered to pay all reasonable legal fees associated with this case. Mr. Walker's attorney will present an itemized list of expenses within 60 days. Court is adjourned. I turned to see Vanessa sitting with Charlotte in the last row. She was smiling brightly and jerked her head toward Maria. Maria was in tears, and Sam was sitting in the row behind her, holding his temples as if his head were going to explode. I couldn't resist as I walked past him. That is one expensive piece of trash, I said to my attorney as we passed, but I made sure I said it loud enough for each of the 2 defendants to hear. Vanessa and I celebrated that night by taking our attorneys out to dinner. I was nominal friends with both of them. I had opposed them in court many times and I respected them. Each of us had joked that our clients should at least feed us after we had secured a favorable settlement for them, because it would usually be a year or more before we saw the majority of our fees from them. I figured maybe I would start a trend. Vanessa surprised us all midway through. Let them stew for a day or 2, she said, then added. Then call Sam's lawyer and tell him he'll forgive the money he owes me. I won't hit him up for child support if he agrees to stay the hell away from us. I arched my eyebrows at her. What happened to emasculating him? I wondered aloud. We did that, she said. But remember what you've told me. If you take away everything, you leave them with nothing to lose. I tilted my head. So now you listen to my advice? I said as I bounced Charlotte on my knee. One-shot deal, my friend, she said with a glint in her eye. I know I can't stop you from giving it, but I don't have to listen to it. I nodded. Do the same with Maria, I said. Tell her I don't want any money from the house either. Vanessa nodded at me. You were right about something, she said. We made a lot of points by offering a generous settlement when we knew we had them. We gave them every chance to get out with their reputations and their pocketbooks intact. Don't get used to me telling you that too often either, she said. Over the months, I watched Vanessa regain her footing. The trauma of a nasty divorce coupled with raising a child alone had been rough for her, but she had rebounded as time passed. Christmas was tough for her as it was for me, and her mood had become increasingly hostile as the court date approached. It was good to see her smiling again. I figured my time with Vanessa would decrease since we no longer had a common set of adversaries. Shortly after the divorce, I was proven right. I still watched Charlotte a couple of nights per week while Vanessa went to work out at the Y or for an evening meeting with colleagues. I stopped bringing work home with me and started to spend more evenings at the office. I had less than 5 months left on my 5-year contract with the firm, and I had decided to move out on my own in the summer. A few days after the court hearing, Detective Derek Johnson appeared in my office. She lied, you know, he said without preamble, and I knew he was talking about his ex-wife, not mine. I know, I said. He glared at me. I didn't find out until about a year ago, I said. She really pulled me into her web. I saw the man smile for the first time. She has that way about her, he said. How'd you find out? I sighed. You know she remarried, right? I said, and he nodded. Well, she tried the same with her next victim. I did a routine check on him. He was almost 70 years old. There was no way in hell he had abused her. There was no way in hell I abused her either, he said harshly. That didn't stop you, I nodded. Your service record, I said simply. That was the confidential file the judge looked at in chambers, he said. You had 3 complaints about excessive force, I said. Johnson frowned. I've come to realize that most good cops have at least 5 or 6 complaints in their jacket, I said. When I found out the age of her new husband, I told her I would take the case, but she had to pay up front. Let's just say she didn't have the money and offered the barter system. Johnson laughed. I can only imagine, he said. You should have screwed her and then refused her case, I said. I called my paralegal under the pretense of getting everything in writing, I said. She didn't seem to know that sex in exchange for legal services was wronger if she knew. She should have been an actress. Hell, maybe she should be. Anyway, look at how she played the 2 of us, he said. She'd be a porn star. I shook my head sadly, but I could see where Marcy could make some cash that way. She was a fine-looking woman. Why did you pick me? He said. I thought about just tossing it in the trash, But I couldn't do it, I said. I just couldn't bring myself to do it in case it was evidence. That's the reason. Even when I was trying to prove that you were the biggest aholi on the planet, everyone told me that you were a top-notch cop. I knew you were someone for whom the rule of law was absolute. He looked pleased. I sent a letter, I said as an afterthought because it just occurred to me. As soon as I found out about your ex-wife's deceit, I sent a letter to the police commissioner and your captain. He eyed me carefully. When did you do that? He asked. I don't know, I said. February or March of last year. I assume they told you, I said. They didn't say anything about it. I got promoted to lieutenant in April without even taking the exam, he said. I passed it twice before, but got passed over. I figured it was never going to happen. I'm sorry, detective, I said. I really thought she was telling the truth. Of course, he said. I missed my wife screwing around on me for almost a year. One thing's for damn sure, he said. If I ever get divorced again, I want you on my side. Vanessa called my office at 8 p.m. one evening in late March. What in the hell are you doing at work? She asked. What do we talk about? I thought she was joking, so I made a smart-ass comment. I was wrong. You haven't been over for dinner in a week, she said. When you watched Charlotte bolt as soon as I'm in the door, did you learn nothing from that wreckage of a marriage? I'm sorry, I said, somewhat flustered. I'm just trying to get things tied up here. I only have a couple of weeks to get things wrapped up. My contract is up in June, and I have 7 weeks of unused vacation. I'm taking. Good, she said. I officially claim at least a week of your vacation time. I smiled. What do you need painted this time? I said, trying to lighten the mood. If anything, I made it worse. Nothing, she said crisply. If you don't want to see us, that's fine. And she hung up on me. I showed up sheepishly 2 evenings later to watch Charlotte while Vanessa hit the Y for her workouts. In truth, I should have been the one going to the gym. My bachelor lifestyle had produced some pretty poor eating habits since I was no longer dining with Vanessa and Charlotte every evening. To look at Vanessa, there would be no way for you to guess she had been pregnant just 9 months earlier. She greeted me at the door. I wasn't sure you'd show up, she said, so I made other arrangements. I was a tad bit pissed. When have I ever not shown up? I asked, in a louder voice than I intended. When have I told you no when you asked me to watch Charlotte? That's not it, Ryan, Vanessa said. I was the other night. I'm sorry I hung up on you. I shrugged. I made a smart-ass remark, and it backfired, I said. The good news is that Charlotte has a play date this evening, she said. If it works out, they'll host the little girl on Thursday night. This means you can go to the gym with me. I shook my head. I'm finally honing this body, I said. Greasy cheeseburgers, greasy French fries, greasy burritos. It's a work in progress, and I don't want to ruin perfect roundness with exercise. They'll drive, was all she replied. Our schedule became somewhat similar to what it had been during our divorces. We went back to having dinner at one another's houses 5 nights a week. I would watch Charlotte at least once a week to give Vanessa some mental health time. Every week after our workout, we'd stop at the grocery store on the way home to restock our pantries, and so Vanessa could make sure that I had something more than cereal and Pop-Tarts at my house. During my vacation weeks, I would spend the day keeping Charlotte entertained while Vanessa worked. As the little girl's first birthday approached, so did the first anniversary of one of the worst days in the adults' lives. Vanessa was resilient. I expected anger and sadness. It was what I was feeling, but if she was feeling either, it didn't show. My life is better now than it was before, she told me as we split a bottle of wine on June 3rd. I don't miss him. I sat silent for a moment. I don't miss her either, I said. I miss parts of the relationship, but I don't really miss her. Vanessa patted my hand. We're both better off, she said. As I started my solo practice, I pondered the transformation my relationship with Vanessa had taken. I still wasn't sure what sort of relationship we had. A couple of times in the past couple of weeks, she had fallen asleep on my shoulder while we watched a movie after Charlotte was asleep. I kept wondering if the feelings I had toward her were proper. I also wondered if they were reciprocated, but I didn't see any signs that they were. Vanessa seemed to view me as a safety blanket. I was part brother and part protector, but she had given no indication that she had romantic leanings toward me. My feelings seemed to fluctuate. Vanessa certainly was an attractive woman. I truly enjoyed watching her on the treadmill, and I almost always made sure I could check out her but while she ran. She had a beautiful smile, and she looked as cute as hell when she would tilt her head playfully when she told a joke or made a funny observation. But I also looked at her as a friend. We had spent hours upon hours sitting around, sharing our pasts and talking about our goals and dreams. Never in our conversation did a mention of our goals and dreams include the other. Maria and Sam had lived together for a while after the divorce, but then split. The last either of us heard from them, they were engaged, but that was a month or two before. Vanessa and Charlotte were waiting outside my new office the day I opened my solo practice. They had been out of town most of the weekend before, so I hadn't seen them in a couple of days. I was in for a shock when I opened the door. The furnishings I had selected hadn't been delivered. Instead, things I had never seen adorned the outer office, where my paralegal would be stationed. The story was the same in my office. The functional desk and faux leather chairs I'd picked out at IKEA were nowhere to be seen. Instead, a beautiful walnut desk and real leather chairs were in their place. Surprise, Vanessa said as I looked around. It's an office-warming present, she said as she gave me a hug. From Charlotte and me. I saw the crap you picked out. I couldn't let that happen, she added. I kept my arm around her. Thank you, I said, but you really shouldn't have spent so much. She waved a hand dismissively. It's money, she said. They'll make more. So will you. In fact, I'm here to be your first official client. I eyed her strangely. I want you to prepare a will for me, she said, and an order of guardianship for Charlotte, if something should happen to me. I'm going to file for child support from Sam and offer to drop it if he'll sign away his parental rights. Can you draft that for me? I would have done that for you anyway, I said. I didn't relish the thought of her being a client that would certainly preclude any romance between us, if that ever developed. You didn't have to bribe me with office supplies, I joked. How did you get this in here, Joanne? I said. She smiled. Joanne was my paralegal, she said. I should have guessed she was an accomplice. I told the salesman at IKEA to upgrade everything, she said. Joanne gave me her key this weekend. I had to dodge you a couple of times. You jerk. I raised my eyebrows. Charlotte's at the age where she's starting to pick up words. It's okay if she calls you scum sucker, Vanessa joked. You can be scum sucker, and it'll be perfect. ITLL give her practice for when she's a teenager. I shook my head. Let's talk about your will, I said. Simple, she said. Everything goes in trust to Charlotte. Her guardian will be the trustee. I nodded. That would make things simple. I could finish that in 10 minutes. And guardianship? You, she said. I sat back. Are you sure? I asked. She looked at me as if I were an idiot. Who else? She said. Of course, I said. You know that I can't accept you as a client. She smiled. Good, she said. I was going to fire you soon anyway, before I had to pay you. But yes, I knew that you couldn't be my attorney. We've been through that before. I shook my head. A week later, we were in the grocery store. I must have appeared pensive because Vanessa was eyeing me carefully. What's on your mind? She asked as we picked out a cantaloupe. I pondered whether to tell her what I was thinking. The scene that had played out in my office had really gotten me to thinking. I was absolutely positive that I wanted to keep Vanessa and Charlotte as integral parts of my life. In fact, I wanted them to be the central part of my personal life. But at the same time, I worried about what would happen to our friendship if something went wrong. Come on, she said. Out with it. I made my decision. Do you think it would make our lives awkward if I asked you on a date? I asked. Vanessa looked at me and then looked away. Let's talk about it in the car, she said. I nodded. I knew I had pushed things too far. We barely spoke during the remainder of our grocery trip. I didn't know how to take back my question, and I think Vanessa didn't know how to respond without hurting my feelings. I steeled myself for what was coming when we got in the car. Were you serious about what you asked? She asked when we had put the groceries in the trunk. I looked straight ahead and said sadly, yeah. Of all the reactions I had expected, I didn't expect the one I got. Vanessa began laughing uproariously. I didn't think the concept was that funny, I said. Just a second, she said, trying to catch her breath. God, you look so earnest. I stared at her before I answered. Your question, I said. I want to ask a couple of my own, she said. Do we spend more time together or apart? I sat back in the seat. Apart, I replied. How do you figure? Well, with work and sleep, I said. Vanessa shook her head. Discount work and sleep, she said. When we have free time, are we together more often than we're not? I guess together, I said. Vanessa nodded. I agree, she said. Now, when we're together, what do we do? I thought for a way to frame my answer. Well, we talk about our day, I began, but Vanessa interrupted. We have dinner, she said. We go to the movies or watch TV at home. We sit around and talk. We play with Charlotte. I nodded. That sounds right, I said. Honest to God, she said. A few months ago, I thought we were dating. I even referred to you at work as my boyfriend. That's why I was so pissed when you disappeared after the divorce was final. I thought you were waiting for all that to be finished before we, moved our relationship to a physical plane. Then I realized you didn't think of me that way. That's what pissed me off. I went to the gym to get my pre-pregnancy body back, and you didn't even look at me. It was frustrating, and I took it out on you. I managed to close my mouth. I noticed I said finally, "Vanessa?" She smirked. "I figured that out," she said. "Have you noticed the mirrors on the wall at the gym?" I blushed. "Have you noticed that my workout outfits have gotten smaller as time has passed?" I nodded stupidly. "Want to know the truth?" she asked. I nodded. "I thought you might have your eye on one of the guys at the gym," I said. "You were dressing to impress." Vanessa nodded. "That's exactly correct," she said. "You just were too silly to figure out which guy I was trying to impress." I smiled. "So please go ahead and ask me out." "I've changed my mind." I tried to hide a smile as Vanessa, and I didn't move our relationship to the physical plane right away. There were other things we had to consider, such as Charlotte. Charlotte was 15 months old and toddling around anywhere she could. While I wouldn't necessarily call her a handful, I think the term precocious was invented for her. It took me almost 2 full days to childproof Vanessa's house. In my apartment, it took Charlotte about 10 minutes to render my efforts useless. First, she figured out how to remove the covers from the electrical outlets. Then she figured out the locking mechanism of the stairway gate. By the time I managed to upgrade those portions, she had managed to get one of the kitchen cabinets open. With each new discovery, she would proudly take one of our hands or both of our hands and demonstrate her prowess. Vanessa would sit and shake her head at some of Charlotte's antics, but I was convinced the little girl was following me around and emulating my actions. Of course, that idea was put to rest when she opened the cupboard that even I hadn't figured out how to open. A playpen proved useless because invariably Charlotte would escape and create havoc. So we got a playmat instead. It kept her occupied, but soon lost its novelty except for the portions of it that made noise. She never seemed to tire of those. Vanessa and I would routinely transport the damn thing to the other's abode, just to have some relative silence for a while. But each time I would think Charlotte was about to drive me to distraction, she would do something incredibly cute or loving, and I'd forgive all of her past and future sins. She had a way of looking at me with those big, doe eyes that rendered me helpless. You'd think I'd be used to if their mother had the same effect on me. It was almost 2 weeks after our car discussion when Vanessa asked me to spend the night with her. Our lives hadn't changed dramatically since we decided that we were officially dating. I realized quickly that what she said made perfect sense. We'd already been dating for more than a year, we just hadn't admitted it to ourselves. Or, I guess more accurately, I hadn't dared to believe it was true. She looked slightly uneasy when she entered her bedroom wearing a short white nightgown, and I'm not sure if the fact that I couldn't tear my eyes away from her shapely legs to check out the rest of her helped or hindered our kiss. Our kisses started out tentatively. It had been more than a year since either of us had shared physical intimacy, and I know, at least for my part and I suspect for Vanessa's too, that I was worried I would do something she would find uncomfortable. From the intensity of our lovemaking that evening, I gathered that I didn't, and when she woke me up in the middle of the night for another round, I was pretty sure I did okay. For me, it was an entirely different experience than I was used to. Vanessa wasn't passive in the least. She knew where she wanted to go and how to get there. She wasn't aggressive, but she was responsive. Her reaction to my efforts let me know that she enjoyed the things I was doing to her as much as I enjoyed doing them. Things only got better from there. Jonathan and Maria married just before school started in September. Neither Vanessa nor I were invited to the wedding. Jonathan had no problem signing away his parental rights in exchange for a document absolving him of all past and future child support obligations. In fact, he signed the papers so fast that the pen left scorch marks. Vanessa took it stoically, but I was a little pissed off. I couldn't figure out how anyone could toss aside a child. I agreed to be the guardian of Charlotte should anything happen to Vanessa, and I also prepared my will to leave my estate in trust to Charlotte if the unthinkable happened to me. Our relationship had transcended my wildest dreams. Vanessa embodied everything I found attractive in a woman. I'm not sure if I changed my view to fit her personality or if we just fit together. I don't know if I matured or if things just fell into place, but it was working, so I didn't complain. Vanessa seemed to be as happy as I was. She was openly affectionate, often holding my hand as we took a walk or brushing my shoulder as she passed by me. I would find an opportunity to pat her behind about every 20 minutes, and I routinely wrapped my arms around her whenever we were alone. It was between Christmas and Thanksgiving when we sat down to have a serious discussion about the future. I think each of us had an idea of what we'd like to have happen, but I think each of us was a bit scared by the prospect. My marriage had lasted less than 2 years, and Vanessa's had fallen apart in 18 months. In fact, we'd both been married less than a year when our spouses started cheating on us. Our failure rate at marital bliss was astounding. Still, we both recognized that was then, and this was now. I didn't compare Vanessa to Maria, and she didn't compare me to Jonathan. It was during that discussion that I finally hit upon what the major differences between this relationship and any others that I'd been in. Vanessa thought for a few minutes about my premise and agreed. Our lives were intersecting circles, whereas the other relationships had been concentric circles. Vanessa and I had many common interests and goals, but we also had a life outside of the other. We each had things the other didn't find necessary to share. For example, Vanessa wouldn't be caught dead on a golf course, and I had little or no use for anything technologically related. The majority of our individual circles overlapped, but there was enough left outside of the intersection to maintain our own identity. I didn't have that with Maria, Vanessa said. She didn't experience that with Jonathan. Before we were married, if I wanted to do something, he wanted to be there, she said. He wanted our lives to overlap completely. When I started to work, well, you know what happened next. I had to agree. Outside of your husband, whom I didn't know about, Maria didn't have one friend who wasn't my friend first, I said. She learned to play golf not because she wanted to, but because I enjoyed it. Hell, mostly I enjoyed it because it gave me a chance to be alone. She could never accept that it wasn't her I wanted to be away from. It was everyone. Vanessa nodded in agreement. I like the concept of intersecting circles, she said. I hope she continues to like the concept, I said. Our wedding bands are 2 independent rings woven together. It only seemed fitting. Thanks for watching. Do you think the characters found true happiness, or were they stuck in their past? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe.